Rubber gets a lot of love in MFB. There isn't really a person who plays MFB in any capacity that doesn't know about RF, R2F, or even LRF, because they're iconic bottoms in the anime and also, more importantly, in real life. They're the de facto attack type MFB bottoms used for combos specializing in KOs almost exclusively. The rubber tips talked about a bit less, and the content of this video are things like rubber sharp and rubber semi-flat, and even rubber ball too. Their uses aren't always, as clear cut or as flashy as the rubber flats are, so here's a little beginner's introductory video to these bottoms, their qualities, and their uses in the MFB meta. For RS, this is a tall rubber tip that comes to a sharp point, so hence the name. Takara rubber RS is very docile movement-wise, making it a strong pure defense tip in MFB, but because of the material, its shape, the height, RS has very little endurance, making it susceptible to being outspun by opponents, especially opposite spin attack types. Practically speaking, we basically mean left spin bays. Hasbro's RS though is noticeably less docile if worn down, so it mirrors something like RSF's use a bit more, trading the TT levels of defense for more movement and slightly different combo options. The kind of combos you should be using on RS are low track defense type combos such as Earth or Bakushin, like 85 RS. This low height and high friction combo can be a real pain to knock out for many attack types, and it's really regardless of the height that they're at themselves. For aggressive Hasbro RSs, treat it like it's a low endurance RSF, and you should be fine. Speaking of RSF, it's a shorter rubber tip that takes the semi-flat shape. It's a curved ball-like shape with a flat bottom, basically. Takara's rubber on RSF is usually a bit more docile, with the exception being the Big Bang Pegasus customized set one. It has more movement than the likes of RS, as well as a little bit more endurance, but not as quite extreme in its ability to prevent itself from getting knocked out as RS would be. Hasbro's RSF is even less docile than the customized set version, usually. I attribute this mostly to it being prone to smooth and ball up over time. As it wears down, it becomes much more ball-like than you'll find the Takara ones to be. The kind of combos you'd be using on RSF are actually a bit different. More aggressive RSFs work in pseudo-stationary attackers like Banded Wyvang, CH120, RSF. They have enough innate smash that you don't need high velocity to produce KOs. You can also use less aggressive RSFs for defense-oriented combos, and while they won't be quite as tough as I mentioned as RS-based combos to knock out, they're perfectly fine. You have to really nail the launch as an attack type user versus RSF. It's quite good. So in that case, you'd be using Earth or Bakushin 90 RSF just fine. The last one we're going to talk about is rubber ball. So even further along the movement spectrum is RB, and as the name implies, it's a rubber sphere shaped tip. It has comparable movement to RSF, if not more, to be honest with you, and its smooth shape though is a bit of a problem because it has the propensity to skip the ridge. So in return for the riskiness compared to RS or RSF, it usually has higher endurance in my experience than both of those. And similar to RSF, RB uses are diverse. In general though, I think it's best to use it as an anti-attack or maybe a mobile defense setup that can take advantage of this increased movement and okay stamina to counter fully fledged attack types. To give you an example of what I mean, I'm thinking like Gravity Perseus or 90 RB. Its low height and great movement can be a serious headache. In my experience, a serious headache to hyper-aggressive attack types by stuffing them and outspinning them. There's a bit of nuance there when it comes to the condition of both RB and RFs that you're dealing with in that kind of scenario. But in general, this is fair advice. You could also run something like Earth or Bakushin 85 or 90 RB, but depending on your aims and goals, you may prefer RS or RSF here since they'll catch the ridge better. Anyway, I just thought it would make sense to give newer players or those who don't really mess with rubber tips that much, especially the more niche ones, a bit of insight onto these RS, RSF, RB, because a lot of focus gets shifted right onto RF, R2F, and even to a lesser extent LRF. So here are some ideas of what you can use it for and what their general properties are if you want to come up with something of your own that's different